Hi, I'm Stacy Pingree, owner of Radiant Financial Group, and this is the Legacy Wealth Building Podcast. So welcome back. Today, I am so excited to have a guest that is so seasoned in so many areas, and he's going to be really exciting to hear his story. His name is Templeton Walker. He was born in and raised in the Grand Canyon Park, which is in itself is a really cool story. He's the husband to Denise and the father of 5. He has 12 years in real estate. Templeton has collectively done over 1,700 transactions, both on and off market, and amassed a portfolio of over 35 homes with revenues in excess of $3 million per year. Super impressive. Owning 5 companies, all within real estate, has been the key to his success. This vertical integration's allowed him to have an investment company sit atop the other 4 and be the driver for all that he does. His system has become a passion that he now teaches through realtor doctors. We're so excited to hear about this today. And for him, and something I'm going to have him elaborate on, is balance is hugely important to a good life in his opinion, and money or business success is only one of the 5 buckets he measures. Working only 4 hours a day, he strives to create a good life balance in all areas while teaching others to do the same. Templeton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I love to jump right in because we get right to the point in this deal where we talk about just love to hear your story a little bit, a little background. I know today there's two really amazing ways that you've created wealth for yourself and legacy wealth in real estate. And I'm so interested to hear more about the vertical integration. Yeah. So if you can give us a little bit of background about you and what that's looked like.
So the cliff notes that I don't think people have heard the podcast of my story. There's a bunch of those out there. From the Grand Canyon, had a son early, came down here, unemployable, became an entrepreneur, 25, 26, I'm 37 now. And thank God I found that, right? And I found out that I was in the right industry when we talk about vertical integration, you got to pick the right thing. Mm-hmm. Like I'm rereading The Millionaire Mind right now, which is an old classic book. And I'm on the section right now that's really relevant around picking the right vocation. Like if you're not doing something that is highly profitable or have the potential to be highly profitable, then it's going to be really hard to get wealthy.
Right. Yeah.
So real estate's such it's just a gift.
Yeah.
Right. It's a tangible thing. Like we were talking about prior to this, it's a tangible thing. It's not going anywhere. And if you're hardworking and if you don't have to be a rocket scientist either, like you don't have to be extraordinarily intelligent to figure it out.
No, you just have to get in and,
you got to. So for me, picking the right vocation at 26, 27, getting in real estate was like step 1.
Yeah.
And then I always say you could have 3 things. I teach my boys this and I'll teach my girls as they get older. You could always have 3 things in any world-class room. You could be the best at having the best energy, the best effort, and the best attitude. Mm-hmm. So I just hung my hat on those things. I remember going Facebook Live when the E-keys were gray.
Yeah.
And being like, you guys, I have a key that will let us in houses. I had no clients. I was like, but they are going to let you into houses.
I love this.
I was just fired up.
Yeah.
Excited. And that's where I started. Just literally just pumped up about the littlest things.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited about life, and I still carry myself that way, hopefully. So then you get busy and you start making some money. And then if you're paying attention and if you look at things, I'm a big believer in first principles, which is looking at things logically. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I brought the client. The real estate agent tends to bring the client, and the title company made money. The lender made money. Mm-hmm. The home inspector made money. Everyone made money.
Everything starts with the lead.
Yeah. So I was like, I wonder if I could put my, the way I treat people. Like I told you, I sold women's shoes at Nordstrom, mm-hmm. which taught me a lot about customer service. Can I put that energy into each of these verticals and not just make more money? Yes, but control the sales process and really serve my clients at the highest level. So as I grew, I got really good at creating the lead and then getting paid on that lead 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
And that's been a game changer for me. When you talk about wealth creation, getting the lead is the hardest part. Yep. So imagine if that lead paid you 4 times.
Yeah.
That was big.
And you create such an experience because you can control the process that then they tell everyone, and you build a referral engine.
For me, that was huge. And I can dive into, how to create more leads or how to do that. But at least first, even thinking it's possible and believing, we talked a lot about mindset, right before this, is if you don't think it's possible, then it's not possible.
Right.
You have to first at least believe it's possible And then I'm big on, I don't need to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
Like I was asking you about some of the things I'm interested in. I'm like, hey, can you teach me that? Like I have this other thing that you're kind of interested in. I'm like, hey, let's exchange knowledge.
Yep.
That's when Napoleon Hill says a mastermind is one of the greatest powers in the world.
100%. And I mean, sharing ideas, that's one of the whole reasons for creating this podcast was really is to be able to sit down with people that have done things I have never done or haven't been exposed to and hear their story and learn from it. Right. I mean, and help others with it. That's the whole idea. So I love it. Love that. And attitude is the name of the game, right? Because I think even in the markets we've come out of the last couple of years, I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, this has been a little more challenging, or just I guess just even an interesting market, But when you're again, how important does it become to control the customer experience and really these clients that are like they're thinner, we're not having as much business as maybe the last couple of years as maybe we had. I love that you just pivot and you find ways, right, to make the deals work. And so we talked a little bit about your. I want you to do the anecdote too about success for an agent in real estate when you're giving them the advice about what they should be doing every year. I think that's huge.
Which piece?
Well, you just said buying a house,
Oh, the 111.
Yeah, the 111.
Okay, so the 111 formula I teach, and I think it's so important to wealth creation is to you have to make it simple. I feel like people try to complicate stuff, and I'm not smart enough to complicate stuff. So I was like, what is a formula that I could teach people that just works? It's not impossible. And if you layer it in month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year, you're going to get to where we want to get.
Yeah.
And so the 111 is, can you learn how to wholesale one contract a month, fix and flip one home a quarter, and hold one rental a year? If you do that for the next 5, 7, 10, 15 years, you will be so freaking wealthy.
Yep.
It won't even be funny, right?
Yep.
And then you start to learn just let's call it some 2.0 or 3.0 tactics with layering debt on top of stuff and lending money and
smart leverage.
It gets really fun, right? Like I'm sure you've been on the compound interest calculator before and you're like, I mean, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be
the eighth wonder of the world.
Right. And it's like, I'm not even doing anything that insane.
Yeah.
But if I just let time do its thing at this point, generational wealth. Generational.
Big time.
If you just let it do its thing. So the 111 formula, I think what a lot of realtors got to understand is you can be the world's greatest realtor. If you don't know how to create business, none of it matters. Because if you don't have someone to work your skills on and serve, then what's it matter? So what I really teach is an investor first principle. So I remember looking at a settlement statement 8 years ago, and I found an investor a deal and I made 10 grand. And they were making 100. And I was like, what do they do? I'm like, that's just a human being like me. Why can't I do that? Yeah. So that's when I first started to look at deal finding, wholesaling contracts, fix and flipping homes, buy and hold. I was only looking at it from an agency lens prior to that. And I was stoked because I was like, I'm making $10,000. There was years in my life I didn't make 10 grand.
Oh yeah.
So I was just satisfied until I was made aware that there was bigger spreads and bigger problems and bigger opportunities to solve. So I was like, oh, okay. And what a lot of realtors do is they stay in this box of, wow, there's this distressed house. There's a problem on this house. I know it's a problem. I'm aware it's a problem, but I don't know what to do with it. And what I did and what I really encourage people to do and what I do with realtor doctors is I essentially teach realtors how to understand and identify those problems, and then go to that client with a menu of options and just say, most realtors just know how to list your home.
Yep.
That doesn't work for every seller. And you'd be surprised. And they'll say, hey, you're not being a true fiduciary if you don't go to the market. And I'm like, you haven't seen some of the homes I've been in.
Yeah.
You haven't seen some of the situations and the timelines we're up against. So when you start doing that, worst case scenario, when I meet with a seller, I walk out with a listing.
Yeah.
So, and now it's I've just taught realtors how to create those leads, how to solve those problems, and how to monetize any situation, which has been, some of my students, one of my top student in the nation right now, he's in North Carolina. He called me at the beginning of the year. He was like, I want to make 300 grand. I was like, 1 million. We want to make 1 million. And he's like, oh, he's going to do he's going to do 1.5 this year.
Oh man, it's amazing.
As long as he finishes these last few months on track, but I think he's already over 1 million. So it's just reframing and perspective and
Well, and like you said, I mean, taking opportunities where you might have seen only, an area of black and white, and saying, well, wait a second, there's actually like three other colors here that could be in the
Yeah.
spectrum. I've worked with a couple of your students, and it's amazing to see them pivot on a deal where they call me and go, hey, how what can you do on, to help me with this seller to cut their costs down? Like, if we bring a buyer in, can you cover? And I'm like, why aren't you buying it? Like we've had the conversations. Why aren't you buying the house? Why aren't you wholesaling? Why aren't you finding out? Because again, total disrepair, or the person does just an urgency, needs to get out of the house or
Yeah.
whatever. But I love that. I love that lesson, because you're just saying, like, go into this with an open mind. Be the
Yeah.
resource you're supposed to be for the client, right?
You said you really, your business is, you guys are advisors.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself the same. And
Yep.
also, I remember my first few wholesale deals, I learned that it was like this smoke and mirrors, don't tell the truth to the seller game that I go, I'm not playing that. Like,
No.
I have faith. I believe I'm going to meet the big guy someday.
Yep.
I don't want him thinking I was down here stealing houses. So I was like, I'm not going to play it that way.
No.
When I meet with a seller, I want them to know everything. Because what a lot of wholesalers do, it's a kind of grimy world. And it's like anything, there's good and bad apples. But the bad apples are preying on like the naivete of the seller to say, well, your home's only worth this.
Yeah. Desperation.
And I'm saying, no.
Yeah.
Like, I just bought a house. We're about to put it on the market for 1.15. It needed like 80 grand. And when I met with the sellers, a divorce situation, I go, guys, I'll call my contractor right now. If you put 100 grand in this, you'll go make this extra for 400 grand.
Yep.
They don't want it.
Get me out of here.
I'm like, okay, well then let me. So I pulled out my
Wow.
pen and I showed them the math of why I need to buy it, where I need to buy it.
Yep.
And I bought it for 720 grand. Because I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to put that money up. I got to go sell a $1.1 million house now in a high interest rate environment, right? Like, if you explain all that, now I can go to bed at night knowing really, at peace that I served them and I told them all the information. Where what some people want to do is like, no, it would never sell. This is your only option. I'm like, no, there's so many options.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually, I love that analogy too, because it's like, one, you are being an advisor. You're giving them all the options, but so many people just think they only have one out. It's very similar. You and I talked about, these lending options are very similar, right? You can sit down with somebody and go, hey, we can do a conventional loan, but if you're going to try to acquire this quickly for the lowest price, maybe I'm going to help you with hard money to get in and do like a cash deal. Yeah. Maybe like buy it like cash so you can buy it better, and then maybe then you're going to do your financing to fix it up, and then we'll refinance it later, and it's going to be worth $100,000 more because the way you bought it. So it's really just like, let's lay out some options, some plans for people. I love that. I think that's that's us being. This is one of the reasons I love this podcast and having the guests on that we do, because it's such a level up. I mean, there are people in any industry doing anything that just are going through the motions. And I mean, just to hear the depth of your experience there and how you want to take care and serve the clients. I mean, to me, that's says so much about this industry where you can get your license in like 3 weeks, or whatever.
Yeah, which is
you know
crazy.
what I mean? Yeah, it is, because you said like being great at sales and creating the relationships and all that. That's obviously what you have a knack for, right? You're just you're a connector, and your energy and your attitude and everything you just said, your personality, your people are drawn to you. They want to work with you, but then to be able to really guide them and give them the right advice, that's a whole nother level of leadership.
It is. And then, like, I think you have to have a standard in your life of how you're going to treat people.
Yeah.
And like for me, there's a saying, I'm like the quote doctor. I have like a gajillion. They're not mine, but I remember them. But like your name walks into your reputation walks into the room before you do.
Yeah.
And I have a name, Templeton. Like, I can't hide if I'm like doing people wrong, right? So I'm always just like, how would if I wasn't in the room, how would I want people to speak about what I did?
Yeah.
And I think that's important for agents to remember. If you're so short-sighted, like, your character cannot be worth $1. Like, your character has to be unshakable.
Yeah.
Like, and there's been times where, I've been propositioned, hey, can we do this? And, you'll make some extra money. I'm like, no, man, I've built this whole big thing, and that extra 40 grand ain't worth it.
Yeah.
So thank you for the offer, but no, thank you. If you want to do it this way, I can help you. Right. And, I think that's where agents, especially in a down market where transaction count is down, a lot of really fantastic people are getting out of the business because it's hard. Yeah. This is when it becomes difficult to stay in line with your values and your morals and your ethics.
Yep.
Because when you're hurting and when you're out of money,
you panic.
I showed you my tattoo, liquidity matters.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's when your character is tested. Are you going to pay people back? Are you going to honor your word? Are you going to do it the right way?
Yeah.
I really encourage agents to remember that.
Yeah, no, because you've been, I mean, I've talked before with guests about, going through the first crash, the '08s, which we're obviously that was an anomaly.
Yeah,
Anomaly because of
with all the bad debt that was on the
Yep.
foundation of that.
And the loans, the faulty loans that were out there, those loans don't exist, right? We talk about that a lot. Those kinds of products are gone, where you just didn't have to qualify, at all. There was no payback,
Yeah.
taken into consideration. But, I think coming out of those hardships, I mean, I think the lessons that you learned too, because you've been through it, you mentioned to me, as we were chatting earlier, that you've been through that, and like you ask yourself, like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to set this up next time? And so, I mean, for agents and clients to listen to you, I mean, it's, it's important because now what the values are, like what the real key points are for not getting in the same kind of hot water or a hot spot.
To speak to that, and I hate listening to podcasts where people feel like they have it all figured out. I'm telling you right now, I don't have it all figured out.
No. Yeah.
What I have learned is that I was over leveraged. At the end of the day, leverage is a gift, but if you use it wrong, it is a fire that can burn you.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 32 flips going. The blessing I had is that I was borrowing hard money on the front, like on the acquisition, self-funding the reno. So to get off of this property that just went down 20% in value, I just had to let my money not come back.
Yeah.
Which was hard, but doable. Where people really got in trouble is they borrowed the acquisition and the reno. So now you need to get off this deal. You're 200 grand the wrong way. You got to bring a new 200, and transaction count is gone. So you don't have a new 200 to bring because your revenue's down.
That's it.
And that's where a lot of my friends are out of the business now, or, they've had to move on, or they went bankrupt, or, really scary stuff.
No, and they're hard lessons. Yeah.
But it was a great lesson for me to say, Temp, you're never going to over leverage again. Mm-hmm. And it was really a mind boggle because my assets were kind of going up in a weird way, and I had to acquire some and I stabilized some. So I became wealthier as I had never been more cash strapped.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is so hard.
Did you end up holding a lot out of that?
I held everything.
Okay. So
I sold one house, my primary, because it was the most logical asset.
Right.
Because I had like 400 grand in it.
No tax liability.
No tax liability.
Yeah.
And I flipped a new primary. My wife and my kids' life started to move to Gilbert. So it made sense. So I went and put 250 into this awesome house. It has a pickleball court, pool, sauna. I didn't sacrifice, I guess. I went to a better situation, but I needed this liquidity to make all this happen. And I had to pay a giant tax bill. So when the market was moving down, I had tax money saved. I had to use some of it to cover the bleeding.
Yep.
I was like, oh my God, Hemp, what are you doing? And you don't win Monopoly by flipping the mortgage card on your assets, your rentals at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not doing it.
That's it.
And my brother's the CEO of a bank, and he's very smart. And he was just like, Temp, sometimes you have to amputate the arm to save the body in my primary. But this ends in a happy way.
Yeah.
I got off all that. I never stopped making money. Now I'm just getting to keep my money again. And I bought that house back.
Oh, really?
Last week.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's congratulations.
So
that's
thank
cool.
you. Yeah. I put in a contract, first right of refusal if they ever sold. They called me to sell. And I was like, I'm not really in a spot to buy a full price rental. I was like, I'll list it for you.
Yeah.
And this house was like my baby. And it's like a $600,000 house. It's not even crazy, but it's a mid-century modern. It was I loved it.
Yeah.
And I went in to list it. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, I'll take it back. I
I
was like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's.
So it's all, but I say all that to say, I think really successful people know how to show up every day within the chaos and move forward. Mm-hmm. And you don't have all the answers, nor do I.
Nope.
But you have a bedrock of really good habits, friends, businesses, books you're intaking, podcasts like this, conversations like this, like that you are pouring into yourself to get better.
Yep.
Where I think a lot of people, it starts to get shaky and they fold. I just don't have that in me.
No, it's a grit. It's a grit, but anybody can have it. I think that comes back to having some great mentors and listen to the right people too.
Yeah.
Because there's bad info out there too.
So hopefully that was a good answer. I don't know.
It's a great answer. It's an amazing answer. We talked a little bit too about balance for you. And
Yeah.
I love this because, this is a really easy, and you're saying it. I mean, you love the business, you love the hustle, you like being
Yeah.
out there, you like being, I mean, you're constantly innovating. I can just tell everything we talked today, and you're like, you're just innovating. I mean, your
Yeah.
eyes, you're making things happen. I can see your brain moving. So,
Yeah.
but I love it because balance is a really critical thing. It's probably as important as the kind of things you put in your brain, right? It's like, okay, what am I going to do also for myself to keep myself balanced? And I
Yeah.
loved some of the comments. I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit.
So for me, Denise and the kids are number one.
Yep.
And I don't care how much money you freaking have. Your kids want you,
Yeah.
your presence, right? They want presence, not presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a gift around listening to smarter people than me and actually doing what they say. A lot of people will hear sage advice and then just not do it. Where I've had so many friends that are a little further down the path than me that I look up to and respect, and they'd say, "Hey, Temp, I regret not spending more time with my kids. I regret." So I'm like, well, then I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, don't do it.
So I take my kids to school every morning. I'm in Temp's pickup line at 2:00 every day. And it's my favorite hour because I'm first in line. So I have a whole hour where I'm trapped in the car, and I have ADHD. So I'm like trapped. So I get my text to zero. I make my calls back.
Yeah.
I usually do a 20-minute TM meditation, transcendental.
Yeah,
I do a meditation. I read whatever I'm doing. It's a great hour for me. He knows that when he walks out those doors, Dad will be there. Then I run home. I go get my other son, and then we're cooking dinner, homework, and then straight to practice. And I'm at every practice. And I probably make a little less money because I condense my window. Mm-hmm. And so what? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I mean, but it's a privileged spot to be in. For a while, I was obsessed just to get out of the scarcity of like not having much. Me and Dee didn't have much. Like Denise, I call her Dee. Yeah. There would be times when I was lean on contracts, and she would go serve tables for 2 weeks so we could like figure it out while I was growing the business.
Get some cash and
just like it was survival. And then once we got out of survival, and I was obsessed with passive income and recurring revenue. And once my recurring revenues like exceeded my lifestyle, I was able to take a breath and be like, okay, Temp. But I was obsessed for a while to get there. Yeah. And I wasn't always perfect. Like even if I was with my kids, maybe mentally I was somewhere else. Yeah. Where I've done a lot of work to try to be where my feet are. Like I want to be with you right now in this interview. Yeah. Where in the past I wouldn't always be. My mind would be like.
Well, and I think too, like it's so easy because these phones, right? In our business, I mean, your office can be your phone. It can be that car that you're talking about and the phone in the car. So, I mean, it usually is, right? Not so much in mine, but definitely in yours, as in an agent and real estate world. And I feel like, that's so easy to get caught up in just like the phone rings, you answer the phone. Mm-hmm. And just even having that, I mean, my advice now to anybody, I'm older than you. I mean, although we have kids,
you look younger than me.
No, I do not look young. But it is crazy because now how fast the time flies, and you're looking back, and we were talking about our kids our oldest looking at colleges, and getting ready for college next year. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's a snap. Well, also putting standards. Like, so I had an agent that he's in my coaching program. He had a really good deal yesterday that we're gonna do, but he really wanted me to walk it with him, and he wanted me to walk it at 4:30. I said, David, man, I appreciate you. Yeah. That's into the, and he's like, oh, man, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Like that's, I will not be there. Yeah. And you got to be okay doing that. Like you have to set a standard around the way you let the world treat you and enter your world. I'm like 600 texts behind. There's money in those texts. Guess what? I'll get to them when I get to them. Yeah. I don't let other people create anxiety in my heart or my world anymore. Yeah.
It's not easy to do.
And you'll offend some people.
Yeah, exactly. It's not easy to do. Exactly. Because it's really hard to look opportunity, they say, I'm going to take a pass on this opportunity at the moment, for something greater. So it comes down to discipline and all those things. But I think having that, putting yourself first, saying my family's first and my, my relationships with them, it's just huge. I do think that's a big piece of this, because that's one of the reasons that we're putting in place the legacy wealth style that we are with the passive income, is that we're saying, you and I talked earlier about, I can look across the board of a bunch of different companies that require employees and a lot of work, which we love our people that work with us. We, the whole thing, right? But when you look at different avenues to make money, you say, well, shoot, the passive income ones like really don't require as many people.
We should just lend money.
So we're going to be lending together. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we should just lend money. But it does become that thing where like this would be the most logical way to grow the business is go into just lending and go into the hard money stuff and the private lending. And there's such a demand for it too.
But to the balance piece and lending, I also found out not working because at 32, my rental started to pay enough. So I tried to not work, and it took like a week for my wife to like kick me out of the house.
Get out of here. You're driving me crazy.
Well, no, I was like bugging her by like 10. I was like, hey, you trying to, and she's like, get out of here. And I was like, all right. So that's not the answer for me too.
She got babies at the time.
Yeah.
Like she's
like, leave me alone. So, but there's a sweet spot for me where not working is not the answer. I was kind of melancholy. Like I wasn't on fire over anything. I was like a 6. I was just like, not sad, but I wasn't on fire.
Yeah.
And so when I set short targets and little bursts that I can sprint at and then unplug and be present where I need to be and put these little booby traps in my life, that's where I do a really good job.
Yeah.
And I think people have to understand that this scheduling that the world has told us we have to abide by was made up by people. Like, do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I always want to make a couple $1 million at least. And I had to figure out how to shrink that into the time that I had. And that was a construct that I created.
Yeah.
Not that, everyone else is like, well, no, if you're not grinding until 6, 7 every night answering the phone, I'm like, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out how to do it in my way.
Yep. I love it. Well, you again, it's just like now it's a leverage of time versus the leverage of money and assets, right? What's next for you? Well, I mean, real doctors,
Realtor doctors, real estate doctors.
Real.
I'm pretty sure realtor is going to get flagged soon as it grows. I'm not allowed to use that word, so I don't know, we'll see.
Oh, yeah, we'll see.
I'm ready for the cease and desist when it comes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that's good.
Then it will be real estate doctors or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tell me a little bit more about that.
So essentially, I just saw I make primarily most of my money from investment deals.
Yeah.
75% of my deal flow comes from realtors that send me deals. And I've taught these realtors, hey, bring me an ingredient, I'll cook the cake, we split the money.
Yep.
So Crystal, who's a friend, she had sent a deal over. I think don't quote me on this, I've done a gajillion deals. I think we made 30, 40 grand.
Yep.
She just sent me the deal and she got a check for 15, 20 grand. And she was like, oh. But then I was like, hey, you can do what I do. But a lot of agents don't have that interest, so they just bring me the deal.
Yeah.
And they're happy to get the phone call. Hey, it's all done. Here's the check. They trust that I'm going to pay them what I promised them, which I've always, that's why they keep coming back and I keep serving. So
you're providing options to them just like you would to the client. You're like, hey, you can do it this way,
so
this way, or this way.
That's another way to look at the world too, is like turn your competitors into your collaborators.
Yep.
All these other realtors are my biggest lead source.
Yep.
And I've made it such a win for them. And that cost me nothing. I have no front end cost of goods on that, or like cost of marketing.
Yeah.
It's only a cost of sale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm paying 50%, which is a lot, but I'm only paying it when I made money.
Right.
So it's 100% margin for me, besides my staff and my building, stuff like that. But I was going to have that either way.
Yeah.
So that's been a blessing. And then, but you get some agents that don't want to just plug in. They want to learn the process. They want to learn how to cook the cake.
Yeah.
And I tried to coach and I tried to do one-on-one. It just didn't matter. It didn't work. I was like, I have to figure out how to do this at scale. So me and Miguel, my business partner in the wholesale company, we put everything in our business and in our brains into a program. And that's the realtor doctors. But we were like, okay, if they learn it and then they start doing it and they need more support after the fact, what do we do then?
Yeah.
So then we layered in a community and we layered in group coaching calls. And it's kind of gone crazy. Yeah.
So it's all over the country.
Yeah. I have students in 35 states.
Amazing.
We had a huge launch. I did it through a webinar, right? I marketed it. They showed up. I presented. We had almost 50 students sign up that night, and it's been crazy. Yeah.
And so, we talked about this too, like being an advisor, but then like the leadership and coaching them beyond, so that when they have the deal, being a resource for them afterward, because you can get on and watch a webinar and be like, okay, now how did he say I get started again?
Yeah, you're like, that's great. But yeah, you need, we have to stop this because a lot of them have like my personal cell phone. So but it's going to,
yeah.
So they're like, Temple, I got one, man. What am I going to do? And I walk them through it, but it's like, are we doing good? My bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we walk them through it and they have me. But like once we get to 250, 300, 400 students, I'm not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we've started to implement like some internal coaches, and
Yeah.
some of the top students are becoming like pod leaders almost.
Yeah. Train the trainer type of situation.
So that, that is, I really got to shoot ads
Yeah.
and show up to the group calls.
Yeah.
So I have quite a bit of time. I was telling you, I'm honestly searching right now for what's
next?
What I want to do. And I told you, I don't know if I should say it here, but I kind of want to be like build out a loan officer team and
Yeah.
lend hard money.
Yeah.
I think I could do that. And it's appropriate. Here's another thing I learned when I was making so much money when the market was insane, 19 to 22. I had 12 companies, insurance, plumbing, tiny homes. I was so distracted. I thought I was Gary Vee. I thought
I saw it on your website. I actually was going like, oh my gosh, how's he doing all this? I mean,
and it worked.
Yeah.
But I would have made more had I just focused on my core 4.
Yeah.
And just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the 10 grand I was making from plumbing.
Yeah.
I could have just sold one more contract or sold one more deal, in my core businesses.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I'm not Gary Vee. I can't greatly impact anything 20 minutes a day.
Right.
Walk in, give some leadership. No. So I had
a lot of those
to
end up being partnerships, or you have so then you're running another business and it's a partner and then you're dealing with that.
Yeah, there's different stuff. So I had to cut about 7 of those. I'm down to my core 5 that are just like, they're light.
Yeah.
Joe Polish, he had Genius Network. Is ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun.
Yep.
You should do things that are ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun.
It's true.
And my real estate business, my investment business, my rentals, title. I have a lending JV right now that pays me some money, but if I was to really operate it, that'd be different.
Yeah.
All of those for me are like in my core competency. I know how to generate a lot of leads for it. Leads are the lifeblood of any business.
Yep.
They're ELF.
Yeah.
Me plumbing, not ELF.
Yeah. No, and it makes you, I mean, just even listening to, the well-roundedness of your entire expertise, it's like all on the same highway. They're different lanes on the highway, but they're all going the same destination, right? I mean, they're all going to like wealth creation. I mean, these are all the critical pieces that help you get there. So I totally love that, because you see so many distractions. It's so easy. Shiny object syndrome, we call it in my office. I'm like, nope, we're not going there. That's not core to lending. It's not core to what we do with advising people on wealth creation.
I own a med spa right now.
Okay. So there you go.
No.
Or are you using it for?
No, this is a perfect example
good.
of what not to do.
I thought you were going to say.
No, I own $500,000 in microneedling RF lasers.
Oh, geez.
And I wash my face with a bar of soap. I know nothing about it. I looked at a P&L that was juicy, and I was like, oh, let's do it.
So we're integrating this into your self-care regimen here now.
So now I'm like, okay, I wonder if I could give microneedling to my real estate students. I'm like, this is so stupid, Temp. So I talked to my partner this week, and I'm in a season and a space in life where I run towards heavy conversations. Yeah. I don't run away anymore. I run towards them. Yeah. And I said, hey, dude, I love you. I want off of this. I don't need any capital back. I have a bunch of money in. I want to leave you in a good spot. You're loving this. He's a dentist. It's at his office. Yeah. It fits. Yeah. For me, it's like, I was just a capital partner.
Distraction.
Right?
You said it.
And I'm like, dude, how do I give this to you? You don't have to give me anything. I'll just write it as a loss and a lesson. Temp, bad boy, don't do it. And I love it. So, but I say that to say, I'm still an idiot. I still do dumb stuff. Yeah. And I learn, and I try to iterate and get better tomorrow. I don't know.
I know. I mean, it's a constant, it's an ongoing thing, right? And then we get new experiences hitting you all the time that you got to learn from and move on to the next thing. So, well, I do always like to ask, what advice would you give? So we know you have big things on the horizon. I think everyone needs to just watch and pay attention to what you're going to do next. I do love that idea. But what's advice you'd give? And you've talked about so many books and so many podcasts and lessons and basically mentors too. But what would you leave with people? What's your bit of advice for people that are listening, interested in legacy wealth?
I would find the person that wholesale you can look at and say, I love their life. Like, I'll be honest with you, meeting you today, seeing your home, seeing your business, we're so aligned on so many things. Yeah. I'm going to make you my friend. And you are going to teach me. But I want to learn this thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I'm going to be so valuable to you somehow
Yeah.
that you're going to teach me what you did.
Thank
And
you.
I think if people, if you want something, there's someone with a kind heart and a good spirit that has done it. And don't ask for anything. Go bring them value.
Yep.
Go bring them value. And they will want to teach you. They will want to grab your hand. I want to help people that want to help themselves.
Yep.
It's like when your car's broken down and you're just sitting there asking for help. Not many people stop. But when you're pushing your car, everyone stops and wants to push with you.
Yeah. You got
And
10
you got to
people lined up.
be that in
Yeah.
your own life. You got to be pushing your own car, trying and getting in front of the people that you want to be like.
Yeah.
And that would be my advice, is like, find a mentor, find a program. It doesn't have to be realtor doctors. Invest in yourself.
Yep.
And bring value to whoever it is you would want to be like.
I love it. It's like the greatest advice I've heard in a long time. And I'm going to use the analogy because it's so true. I mean, you really are drawn. I mean, I know for me, I'm completely drawn into somebody who's already just really trying to figure it out and do the thing. I'm like, I'm your resource. I mean, just,
I want to help
I did
you.
this, or I made a lot of mistakes trying to figure this out.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't make all these
Please
mistakes.
don't start a med spa.
Yeah. So I won't be starting a med spa. I do know that's out of my wheelhouse, but I might have,
But hopefully that's good advice, and hopefully that makes sense.
It's great advice.
When I wanted to learn how to wholesale, I connected to one of the largest wholesalers in town, and I just brought him deals. And I said, dude, make half the money. I just want to learn.
Yeah.
And when I first got into real estate, I found a great broker and he taught me.
Yeah.
When I first got into the online coaching space, I had a buddy that had made like $20 million at it. I was like, so he owns a piece of my company on the back end that no one knows about, but his knowledge and expertise is so valuable. I'm happy to give up some of the money if I can get where I want to go quicker.
Right.
Because velocity matters.
Yep.
And some people are so dang short-sighted, they want the whole grape and they won't take a piece of the watermelon. Yep. And I'm not saying you have to go partner on everything, but lead with value. Also, I did this on the med spa. I looked at one variable. I looked at the P&L. I didn't look at the whole thing on how it would fit in with, if you're going to find a mentor, make sure that you like the way they treat their spouse, their children, their body, their mind, their spirit, their heart, their money.
Alignment. Yeah.
Are you aligned in all that? Because
Mm-hmm.
if I can find you a lot of people that make a bunch of money that I want to be nothing like.
Right.
And there's a lot of people I would love to be like spiritually, and I don't want their life either.
Yeah. Who
is someone that I can really find and when you find those people, be all in on bringing them value, and you will, I promise you'll rise.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't end on anything better than that. This is the best. Thank you so much. To everyone watching, we will have all of Templeton's information in all of the notes below the show. So please check him out. Keep an eye on him. He's going to be moving. So thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.